Hey everybody, it's Peter, and in this video I'm going to compare some of the differences between the Liberty S 50cc and the Liberty S 150cc, and they are very, very similar. So part of this video is going to talk about what it's like to live with these scooters. Now I did a video recently on what it's like to live with a Vespa. We're going to do the same type of video on these because there are some differences between the engine sizes, some differences in features and stuff that may make a difference to how you use them. So if you have questions, there's no way I'll answer every question that you could possibly have in this video, but if you do have questions, make sure you hit subscribe and let me know in the comments below what you want to know about these vehicles, and I'll come back to you in the comments and in future videos to make sure I answer your questions. And I can do that because here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals, Jim Gilbert's Power Sports, they give me complete access to the entire Piaggio Vespa lineup. So I can come back to these again and again to make sure we answer your questions. Now let's get into the review. So before I show you the specific differences between these two, let's just talk generally about a 50cc and a 150cc. Obviously 3 times the engine size. In some cases that doesn't translate into 3 times the power, but in this one it's, depending on the specs you look at, it could be almost 3 times the power. Really, that is a huge difference in how you're going to use these scooters. Now, in some places, in some provinces, you can get a scooter license on a 50cc as young as 14 years old. In other places, including here, you can drive a 50cc with just a car license. However, if you want to step up to a 150, you generally need to wait till you're 16, and you generally need to have some level of motorcycle license to be able to drive that. Now, one thing that's interesting to me is the 150cc Piaggio Liberty here is actually less expensive than the Vespa 50cc, and they share engines. So if you are sitting there and saying, well, I want to save some money, there's an option to move to a 150cc, spend some money on the licensing, and actually have more practicality even if you didn't want to get that motorcycle license initially. So the 150cc is definitely going to do more for you. But again, there are some advantages to the 50cc in just simplicity of various things. The other thing that we should talk about is fuel mileage. Both of these get exceptional mileage. Obviously, the 50cc gets better mileage. However, I want to do a test, and maybe I'll do this next coming summer. We're filming this in the winter. But I want to do a mileage test because I think if you drove this thing around at 50cc or 50cc speeds, you know, in-town speeds, you're not going to be a whole lot worse off than you would be driving this one. This one, because it can only go so fast, you know, it obviously has a limited top speed and therefore uses little fuel. This one can go faster and therefore uses more fuel, but I do think that if you drove this around at slower speeds, this 150cc engine isn't going to be maxed out, and it might return fairly similar mileage when you're going fairly similar speeds. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. The other thing we're going to talk about with these scooters is they have larger wheels. Now, in the past, I've probably neglected to mention this is a 16-inch wheel up front. On something like a Vespa, it's a 12-inch wheel. One thing to keep in mind is there's a 14-inch wheel in the back. So only the front wheel is very large. The rear wheel is slightly larger than a Vespa, but they are different size wheels, and on a Vespa they would be 12 and 12 for most of those. So just something to keep in mind. Let's take a look at the 50cc and the 150 and look at a couple differences that'll help you point out the differences when you're looking at them, and then we're going to talk into using these scooters and living with them. All right, so the biggest difference between these is obviously that motor and drivetrain. I have the 50cc sitting right here and the 150cc sitting right there in the background there. Couple things you're going to notice. First of all, if you see this Piaggio circular type thing, that is your 50cc. If you see that more oval with a Piaggio in the black there on the panel in there, that is the 150. So you'll notice a couple differences in suspension as well. This one has a lot of coils here that are really tight together, and then a longer spring. That one has a few little coils that are tight together, longer spring. They are variable rate springs, and different weights allow different things. So the suspension is tuned for the weight of each vehicle, but that's pretty much the only difference other than the speedometer. There is a difference on mufflers on these. One has a chrome cover, which we'll show you just in a second. I'm not sure if that's a 2023 versus 2022 because that's what we're looking at here. This is a 2023, that's a 2022. It might also be a 50cc versus 150cc difference. Let's just show you that right now. So taking a look at the opposite side here, we've got the 50cc over here, the 150cc right there. Different mufflers, different shield on that muffler anyways as well. And that's about it. Let's look at the speedometer because that's the other thing to keep in mind. And then we'll talk about a safety difference between these two as well. So we're looking at the Liberty 50 right now. I'm just going to turn the key on And the biggest difference is just where the speedometer ends. This one goes to 80 kilometers an hour. Now keep in mind, just like your vehicle, just because the speedometer goes that high doesn't mean the vehicle will go that speed. So this one's gonna sit there in that 60-ish kilometer an hour range for a lot of people at the 50cc. So it's an in-town bike that can get you anywhere you need to go. As far as warning lights, you'll notice there's no warning lights on right here. Let's jump across to the 150 and you're gonna see a key difference. So looking at the 150, obviously that speedometer goes up to about 140 kilometers an hour. So checking the dash, you can sort of see which model this is. And again, this one's not going to go 140, but in that 100 kilometer an hour range is no problem. That does make it highway capable, highway legal in most places. But really what this does is open up the secondary highways to go just about anywhere. And there are very few places you can't get to on those secondary highways, meaning that this bike can legitimately take you everywhere without having to take a whole lot of detours. So let's just turn the key on for a second. We'll talk about one more little thing. You'll see all those warning lights will turn off. Actually, that oil light's gonna stay on for us. Let's just turn the signals off. There we go. That oil light is staying on just because I haven't started it. Now you're gonna notice that ABS light blinking in the left side. Now if you're used to a car, any blinking light is usually a very bad thing. This is not a bad thing at all. When this scooter is stopped, it's letting you know, hey, the ABS is here, but I'm not reading anything. As soon as you get rolling a few kilometers an hour, a few miles per hour, that ABS light will turn out. That actually tells you that the ABS is working and it's looking for that wheel sensor. Don't know why they do this. It's sort of counterintuitive, but it's fine. But this bike on the 150cc has front wheel ABS. Now, if you wonder why front wheel over rear wheel, it's probably a cost-cutting type thing. But simplicity's sake, for a bike that goes this kinds of speed, the front wheel is the one that's gonna throw you down if it locks up. So that's gonna keep that front wheel from locking up. Your rear wheel technically can lock up, but usually you don't end up going down when that happens. So ABS is pretty rare in scooters, and it does have that front wheel ABS, which makes it safe. And again, if you want that, you're only gonna get that on the 150. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that 50cc isn't going the highway speed. So when you're jamming on the brake at a 50cc, you're not gonna come down from such a high speed. So having ABS is important for a higher speed vehicle, and this one does have it, so that's nice to have. And then again, makes a difference in your safety. Taking a look at the controls on this bike, you've got standard motorcycle fare over here. Your high beam or your headlights are always on. So if you want to turn your flash to pass, in other words, your like high beam, just blink it, you can tap that to blink it. If you want to lock it on, you can do that as well. You've got your signal lights, which you're going to press left or right to signal. You're going to press it in to cancel the signal because they don't have self-canceling signals on scooters. And you also have the horn down here, and then a little trunk release button, which pops your seat. We're going to show you the trunk in a second. Let me just show you the right side as well, and we'll show you the controls over there. Over on the right side, this is not a button, that is just a label telling you that's your front wheel ABS, and it is on the right side because that is your front brake. You can't see it on the angle I'm filming, but my brake lever there is my front brake. There's no foot brake on these motorcycles and scooters. They have a separate brake for the front and rear. Usually on a motorcycle, your right side foot is your rear brake. On this one, it is the handle on the left side. So there's a handbrake, just like a bicycle, on the left side for your rear brake. You've got a kill switch down here, which just can turn the engine off, kill the power. You've got a starter right there, so when you turn the key, instead of turning the key to start the car or start the scooter, you're going to use this button here to press that in. That turns over the engine, starts it up. It's very quiet. And then the mode button here just cycles between your odometer, your trip A, and your trip B. So same controls on both bikes. You won't see this labeled as front ABS on the 50cc models, only on the 150. So we're going to press the button on the handlebars here that releases the trunk. You may have heard a click there, maybe not, because I'm mic'd up, the bike is not. It releases the trunk. I'm going to turn the steering wheel completely straight so we can get full opening of that seat there. And this is what you have under the seat storage. So right now we have a manual in here. If you have a 3/4 face helmet, you could easily fit that in there. If you have a full face helmet, you're probably not going to. Now, one thing that's interesting between Vespa and Piaggio, the Vespa and Piaggio the Vespa at 150cc and 50cc actually has a little bit different tray in here. The 50cc has a little bit more room. Even though these share powertrains between Vespa and Piaggio, it's the same size bucket, whether it's 50cc or 150cc, in the Piaggio. So just something to keep in mind. Doesn't really matter which one you buy, they have the same storage there. Now, if you wanted a full face helmet, again, this bike is capable of around 100 kilometers an hour or so. If you want to take a full face helmet, let me show you a little spot where you can take up to 2 full face helmets, secure them to the bike, and not have to worry about them being in here. So again, lots of storage when you're traveling, all your stuff is in here. If you have a 3/4 face helmet or half face helmet, when you're parked, you can put it in here, but a full face helmet has a special spot. We're going to show you that right now. So just so you get your bearings of where we are, the storage area that we were just looking at is in the back there. The fuel fill was in the front of that. It's still there. There's a little post right there, and there's a little post right there. If you have a helmet with D-rings, which most helmets come with, you can secure that D-ring over that little post and hang the helmet on the side of the seat, on the front side. When you close this seat down, that will lock that D-ring on there. So you do have the ability to secure a full face helmet sitting on the outside. People can still see it and they could touch it if they want to, but it would be very difficult to steal because the D-ring is hooked over there and it's hanging on the side. So there is an option to take 2 full face helmets and not have to fill up your storage, so you could keep that locked for other things. And I should point out again, these seats are lockable and they stay locked when you're away from the vehicles. So you got your storage secured and your helmets could stay on there as well. Another storage option that we don't always talk about is sitting back here. You have these hand grips, which are for the passenger to hold onto if they wanted to, but you can also strap things there, and a little bit of a luggage area back here, which you can get accessories to hold a case, which could hold a full face helmet as well. There's 2 other little luggage spaces I want to show you. Let's look at them right now. So these Piaggio scooters have a little bag hook right here. Now, in my opinion, this is better than the one on the Vespa. On the Vespa, it comes out of the front of the seat and it just has sort of a hook that comes up. This one has a piece that removes here. Let's see if we can see it clearly on camera there. It's at the top of your screen, so maybe we'll just move a little bit closer here for you. But it has a little hook here that you can sort of pull away, and when you put a bag in there, it will secure it and it can sit there on a flat floor. The Vespas don't have the flat floor, and that's because of the way the frame is designed in this compared to a Vespa. They are different frames, and that allows you to secure something in here and put your legs on either side of it, and then you can carry another backpack or something like that, but not have it on your backpack, or not have it on your back. You can also carry grocery bags, those kind of things. Have them secured between your legs, but hooked into here, just like that, and in. And if you don't want that there, it hides away. Now let's take a look at the little glove compartment here, which we're gonna turn the key. Actually, not turn the key, it was already in the right spot. We're gonna press it in, and there you go, little glove compartment. So this is something you're gonna use pretty much every day. You're gonna put your wallet in there, your phone, other kinds of things. You can get an accessory if you want to help charge your phone in here. So it can be both charged, or it can be just as it is, comes without a charger and just a place to stick your phone. The nice thing about this is even on the 150 and 50, it's identical. You have this spot, same identical spot on both sides here, which makes it a little easier to store your stuff. So the other thing with the Liberty is whether you get the 50cc or the 150cc, you can take a passenger. It's the same size seats, and they're very roomy seats, especially compared to something like a regular motorcycle. You've got plenty of space to take 2 people. Now the nice thing about the Liberties is they have these fold-out foot pegs. Compared to something like a Vespa, the Vespa foot pegs is kind of part of the floorboard and your heel sits inside against the bodywork. These sit you outside, so you have plenty of room and a little bit more comfort for your passenger to have their foot peg there. Now, of course, a 150cc will allow you to take that second passenger at speed, both through town and around. Weight is a contributing factor when you drive these. Power to weight ratio matters, so the 50cc, you're not going to be taking passengers everywhere, and that's another reason to consider the 150 if you have to take passengers around. Even if you're only going in-town speeds, the 150cc gives you significantly more power to do that. Lighting is supposed to be the same between these vehicles, and it's difficult to film here, but there is some LED lighting down here which does a very good job of shining sideways as well. Now what's interesting is this is set to on but not running, and the headlight is off. This is a 2022 model. This one's a 2023. This one's the 50cc. It is set to on and the exact same thing, but the headlight is on. I don't know if that's a difference between the 150cc and the 50 and the 150. I have a feeling it's a model year thing because I would think the 150 would have it on as well, but I'm just guessing here. But lighting is the same on them, front and rear, signals and everything else. So same thing for safety. The other thing is with the mirrors, same thing as well. Both of them are wide angle. So they say objects in mirror closer they appear. Usually you see that on the right side of your car. It's both sides on the scooters here. So let's talk about who these scooters are for. Well, first of all, I'm about 6 feet tall. This is on the center stand, the rear wheel is off the ground, but you can see I can easily reach here. If you're shorter, you don't have to stand across. You can pull it off the center stand. It'll drop down significantly. Whether you're short or tall, you're going to fit on these. I mean, people much taller than me easily fit on these. Short people are very comfortable as well. So the real difference between them comes down to how you want to ride, and in often cases it depends on certain licensing requirements. Like we said, if you don't want to get a motorcycle license, there are plenty of areas, including here in New Brunswick, where a 14-year-old can ride this 50cc where they can't ride that. You also can ride this on a car license in some places, like here in New Brunswick, where you need a motorcycle license or some version of a motorcycle license for that. However, given the cost of these compared to competitive scooters, and like I said, even compared to the Vespas, which share a powertrain with these are much less expensive. And that means that if you're just purely looking at things from a cost perspective, some people can get into this vehicle for cheaper than the Vespa, and you may even be able to fit some licensing costs into that, and this opens it up. So my advice is, if you can spring for the 150, you will get more value out of this bike because you can use it in more places, which is probably something that you're going to use to save gas over your other vehicle, or it's going to allow you to go more places and have some more freedom. This one is perfectly good to do everything you need to do around town, and like I said, the lack of licensing or certain types of licensing requirements does make it a very good option. And part of what's fun about a 50cc is trying to find out where you can go. I used to own a small scooter myself, and I could go everywhere. I had to find a creative route to go there. So that's kind of the differences between these two. If I didn't cover some of the things that you want to know, I'm going to be making a whole bunch more videos, even on the exact same scooters if you want. So I want to thank Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals for giving me access to their vehicles, but let me know in the comments below what you want to know so I can come back to it, because that's what we do here. We're trying to build a little community of getting answers that you need to these things. And again, if you want to see these in person, even though it's sitting here in December right now, we have all kinds of Piaggio scooters, Vespa scooters, and motorcycles, all kinds of things here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals. Make sure you come here, check them out for yourself. If you don't want any pressure from a salesperson, no problem. You can just come check them out. They'll tell you the things you need to know about them. It's a great place here. It's known as Canada's Huggable car dealer, Canada's Huggable power sports dealer. They really take care of their customers. Thanks everybody for watching.